I go to therapy for it, but I mean, I can't really help it because I've had these issues with my mom for such a long time. Me and her just started being, on a good page like a year ago. So it's hard to unlearn all that trauma that I've had for the last 24 years.
Yeah, did she leave you alone or something?
Yeah, she did. She left me. Both of my parents left me, but me and my dad have a closer relationship. But my mom left me when I was younger in Jamaica, and basically was like, she don't really care about me. And then even when I did come to live with her, I was never really her main priority. So I was never put first, I don't feel like, with her. And that is, I guess, what I look for in relationships. I want to be put first. I want to be a number one priority. And if it's not happening, then I feel like I'm going to be abandoned.
So, and this is I have a brother and sister who felt like the same way about my dad. So this is the reason why I'm asking. Do you feel like she just blatantly left you, or was there like a conversation that was had before she came to America? Like, how did that work out, and why do you feel like she left you?
Well, she did leave. What's she going to do with a kid in America? Background, my mom had me when she was 17. Really important. So when she left at 20 years old, she didn't want me, to be honest. Like, my dad basically trapped her. Like,
okay.
He wanted me. Yeah, he wanted me. She didn't really want me. So it was kind of like, when she had me, it was like, I didn't really want this anyway. So it wasn't really like a main responsibility or priority for her, because she knew that my dad had me and my grandma had me. So for her, it was like, she never got the chance to be a kid, really. So now as an adult, and while I was able to forgive her, I put myself in her shoes. And I can't see myself at 25 years old with 2 kids, an 8-year-old and a newborn. You get what I'm saying? Yeah. So I try to empathize with her. And really, I figured out the root cause of her problem. And the root cause of her problem was she was never showed love as a child either. So that is the reason why, to me, she treats me the way that she does. And I just had to learn to accept her as a human being versus my mom. So I just look at her as a human, just another person that just so happens to be my mother. And that's what has helped me cope. But I definitely still do have, some personal things that I feel like affect my relationships, and that's why I'm single right now. And I do have relationship anxiety because I don't want these things to come out again. I know how it can be annoying to someone, like you said, do I start acting different? So it's like, I don't want that to be something that happens all the time. So I'm kind of like skeptical of getting in a relationship until I feel like I have myself under full control.
Well, that's good.
I'm about to say, I don't see nothing wrong with that. As long as you can recognize the shit that you're doing, because I feel like a lot of times in a relationship, we go into it with a lot of ego instead of being humble sometimes. And it's a lot of times it's either my way or the highway. And sometimes we can be projecting trauma and shit on other people, whereas we won't even take accountability within ourselves to even realizing what's going on. And I know that maybe I should get some therapy because this person is not a therapist. They're just my other counterpart. They try to love me for who I am. So I got some of those same issues too. My mom had me when she was 16. It's she was me and my mom relationship is more so I look at her like a friend, more so than a mom. My grandparents, for the most part, I call my grandma mom and shit. You know what I'm saying? And I feel for real, me and my mother, I never really said enough, but we need to have a conversation between each other on our own personal relationship. I ain't one of those mushy people. I don't know. That should make me feel weird, having those personal conversations and shit. But yeah. Anybody else got anything else they want to say? Y'all real quiet tonight. Y'all niggas is different.
I think my trauma comes from past relationships, not necessarily with parents. It's just whenever I date, I'm very intentional. So even from my very first boyfriend, I just thought that I was gonna marry him, and we were together for so long, and it just did not work out. And the same went for my relationships afterwards too. So
your high school sweetheart?
Say that again?
I said, was he your high school sweetheart?
Yeah, I was with him from I can't even remember. We were just together for 5.5 years. And that's another thing too, when I have a bad experience with someone, I'm really good at erasing everything from my mind, like with them. And that could be like a good or bad thing. But like when it comes to the next relationship, I try not to make the next person have to deal with what happened in the past, but I still have like the fears of them hurting me, if that makes any sense. Like either cheating or, leaving or something like that.
No, it do make sense, but I always wonder why females do that. Like, cause a lot of times, like, when we get in relationships, it's like a fresh start. Like, me, I try not to carry nothing from my past relationship into my new one, even though I do, cause I'm still human. But like, I still like try to trust people and shit. Cause I've been cheated on before too. I feel like a lot of men, they be scared to admit that shit. But I'm like, I've been cheated on a couple times. Like, you know what I'm saying? And I just like, I don't know. Like, I just be like, fuck it. Like, I be like, fuck it. It is what it is. Like, it's cool. Like, new person. Like, you know what I'm saying? I always try to give somebody a chance to break my trust. But like, once you break my trust, it's like, fuck it. But I don't really like.
Yeah, it's like any little small thing.
Yeah. It be like that shit with me too. I be like, man, fuck that shit. I ain't with none of that.
Right. Do you guys feel like you guys speak out for that?
No. Honestly, I try, like, I be wanting the best in every situation. Like, oh, please, God, let this be it. Let this be it. But then when it be that one thing, it just be so hard for me to, like, look past that, because I'm like, damn, like, I gave you everything. Like, I trusted you. You don't even have to worry about me doing you dirty at all, and you did me dirty. Like, after that, I just be so over it.
I think
so over it.
I was gonna say, I think that we have to. I was talking to my friend about this earlier, like PTSD, which I know that that's like something we focus on a lot in the military and how in depth it can go. But we were talking about, how many of us in the Black community actually have PTSD, but we don't really address it like the same way that we do, in a military type of world and everything. But you know how you have these triggers and stuff, which is kind of what, is it Zapunzel? Zapunzel was,
yeah.
Okay. I think that's kind of what, she was speaking on, like, how you said that, from your past experiences, it can kind of come up in your relationship. But I think that that's something that, we gotta, focus on more. Is kind of like speaking on that post-traumatic stress disorder, and not to really label nobody, but it's a real thing, and how it does affect us. And you have to communicate with your partner too, and let them know what is going on with you or what has happened in your past. It's important to me. It's important to lay that stuff out there on the table. I know, like, when it comes to men, a lot of times they're not really as big with talking about things that have happened to them when they were, growing up or whatever the case may be. But that's the only way, like, your partner is going to be able to help you, or be able to, know how to operate with you in a relationship, is being able to address those triggers and stuff.
That's so true.
Yeah, that's a fact. That's a fact, though.
But that'll only work if you're with someone who truly cares about you. Because,
right.
For example, like, I was in a domestic violence relationship. Like, I don't really want to get too into detail because my daughter is right here. But the relationship that I got into afterwards, he was someone who I thought was my best friend. So he knew about my situation before him and I got together. And he was very, kind at first. But then he just completely changed in, like, his verbiage. And when I would address him and say, like, to me, I really cannot respond when someone is aggressive to me. Like, I just completely be quiet, and I just, it's like they're not even talking. Like, I become completely mute, and he knows that. And, like, the things that he would say when I would, address him in a calm way, he'll just be like, well, that's how I talk. I'm from New York. That's how I talk. And I'm just like, but you can't be gentle with me. Like, so it just all depends on like who really takes that into consideration, because some people, they just don't care.
Yeah, and I think that, when you deal with people like that, like how he said that he's from New York, that's just how he talk, those be excuses, and also like, defense mechanisms as well, when people try to use something to cover up, their personality and everything. But, in his defense as well, though, he probably has something that happened to him, some type of past trauma, and he's just being defensive about it and not really want to lay it out there on the table. So that's probably why he was having issues with him.
That's very true.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of men, especially, like, they be scared to, like, talk about certain shit, though, you know what I'm saying? Like, I've seen women weaponize that shit at the same time, like, I've seen them do some wild shit. Them use that shit, like, against a nigga, like, and they just be holding that shit in, and then the next thing you know, a nigga be having these fucking outbursts, and they like, damn, I wonder why you doing this, but it's like, well, you know what I'm saying? Nigga done went through some shit on his own before, too. It's like, you know what I'm saying? Like, we gotta, like, we can't just cut that emotional shit off. Like, we gotta learn how to, like, I don't know. Like, it gotta be, like, I think we, like, emotional lessons for men. Like, you know what I'm saying? On some real shit, because a lot of niggas, they just don't even know how to express that shit a certain way. You feel me? So.
And y'all been kind of taught to be disconnected from y'all emotions.
Yeah, fact.
Like, don't cry, don't do this. Or if you're doing too much, you a wimp, you a punk, and all of that. And I think that that's very, very detrimental to men, especially when you end up in a relationship.
I'm really here to listen, because I'm hoping I can learn something, because I'm literally living this topic right now. I'm not trying to be funny. So I'm here to listen.
What you mean you living it? Like, like what you going through it right now?
Yeah, most definitely.
And like, you projecting your traumas on other people?
No, he's projecting his trauma on me, and it's a lot. And I tell him all the time, like, we all come with issues. We all come with mommy issues, daddy issues. Some people both. Some people had their parents at all, X, Y, and Z. But for so long, you can't blame people for your how you act, or you can't always point the finger. Like, at some point, you have to take accountability, and you have to fix it. And if you want to fix it, you're going to fix it. But you can't, like, drag me in the process. Don't get me wrong. Like, I want to be with him 100%, but it's like, it's draining me in the process. And I don't know how to help him no more. I really don't, without losing myself in the process.
So, like, have you offered him any type of, like, getting any type of therapy and stuff like that? He just don't want to do it. Like.
Is he being, like, abusive?
No. He just feels like he can't never have a successful relationship because of the relationship that he has with his dad.
That out of his mouth?
Yeah, because he said I want to say a perfect view, but a decent view of what a relationship is supposed to be like, or how it's supposed to look. And I get that because, similarly, I think everybody has seen that, but it's just like what you do with it. And I've suggested therapy to him. Suggested trying to reach out to someone who's close to him that he can talk to about, me and the relationship. But, he keeps ignoring it. And I guess today he had like a breakthrough, and he said everything that I've been saying to him for like weeks and months. But it's just like, I'm all out of talks, y'all. I'm all out of talks.
Niggas can be a handful.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
I don't even think.
And it's like, and even in the process of me talking about him, I'm not gonna say he's not a bad nigga. Like, he do what he's supposed to do. It's just that aspect. It's just he sabotages himself, and I tell him that all the time. But,
and then, do you think he uses like having daddy issues as an excuse to do what he does, or do you genuinely feel like he has daddy issues and this is what he's going through?
Both.
Yeah, that's tough.
Does he ever go through periods when like he's trying, like he'll be making progression and then he like relapses, or how long does he usually like y'all stay good for?
maybe a couple weeks.
But he's showing effort though, right?
Yeah, but then like it'll take something or like a situation, and then he'll revert back to what he's not supposed to be doing. So, at this point, it's just like, I grew up with him. I known him for a long time. We messed around before we actually got into a relationship, and been in a relationship for like a minute now. But it's just like, I don't know, y'all.
But I feel like there's hope for him because of the fact that at least he can admit that he has some issues and he is trying to make, progression other than, versus just saying, this is just who I am, and you just got to accept it or, kick rocks or whatever and stuff. But you said that y'all have tried therapy before or y'all have?
No. I suggested it. No.
Well, yeah. Well, I'll usually talk too much about my personal life, but I know, like, me growing up with my parents and stuff, my dad had some issues, some real issues that affected, like, me and my mom and everything, and it took him a long time to get things, right, some years, like, until I was grown, basically, and so I ain't gonna say that, it's gonna be easy. Everybody develops at their own pace. He could get it together, in a year. But it's a possibility that it may take him, some time to actually be where he wants to be. Not just necessarily where you need him to be, but what his goals are for, for himself. Because y'all could break up any day, and go on about y'all lives and stuff. But if he has some issues like that, then he's going to have to, work on them regardless if he wants to have a successful relationship. But, I don't know what your faith is of, how y'all are spiritually or whatever the case may be. But y'all probably need to, I'm sorry, what was that?
No, I am, but honestly, he's not going to fix it from in the picture. I feel like I enable it because,
Well, sometimes you gotta, I'm not no therapist, but I was gonna say sometimes, we also have to take a step back and look at ourselves too, because one thing I notice is like when we're with someone who has some issues, a lot of times it allows us to deflect away from our own personal issues as well. Not saying that you have any, but I think we all have some flaws. And, maybe y'all need to like kind of figure each other out. You need to figure yourself out as well, because there could be something that's also being done on your part, to trigger him. Not saying that it's your fault, but that's just reality to some things, is that, sometimes it's a miscommunication issue, or your partner's doing something that could be triggering you, and he's doing something that could be, you're doing something that can trigger him, and he's doing something that can trigger you. So maybe, you should sit down with yourself as well and kind of, see like, okay, well, maybe is it something that I'm saying or how I'm communicating with him that's causing certain results, or is it just a him issue by himself,
Yeah, because I feel like a lot of times it'd be hard to look in the mirror, like for real, like I know like certain shit people be doing. It'd be like, damn, that shit fucked up. But sometimes we gotta look at the reason why they doing certain shit. That's not to give them an excuse or nothing, but a lot of people got their own situations, their own demons, their own battles they be fighting that they really can't get control of. You know what I'm saying? I ain't saying it's your obligation to do that, but I feel like, if you really care for them, you should definitely be trying to guide them that way. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes it ain't always, therapy. You know what I'm saying? It could be like whatever. It could be like reconnecting with his parents, or you know what I'm saying? You never know. Like sometimes you just gotta dig deep. But I feel like with men, because I know I am a man, we could be real like closed off from our emotions. Like you know what I'm saying? Nigga, distance yourself away from that shit. You know what I'm saying? Just because we don't want that shit to be weaponized against us. You know what I'm saying? And not saying that like that's what you would do or nothing, but a lot of the times like we feel like being emotional or being vulnerable. That shit is like it almost feel like. I don't know. It almost can like make you insecure. You know what I'm saying? Like it can make the situation worse. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I always be telling niggas like, you know what I'm saying? Like you can't keep that shit bottled in, but at the same time I understand like, because as being a man, like when we out here and we sharing our stories and we giving our personal experiences and shit at the same time, it's like
you don't want it to be thrown back in your face.
Yeah, you get what I'm saying? Like it's always that. It's always like that defense mechanism, but we don't even be realizing the shit that we be doing be causing trauma on other people, you feel me? So at the same time, niggas gotta stop doing that shit, you feel me? So
I was gonna say that too, Key. Maybe he needs, some type of, maybe he needs to, I don't know the relationship he has with his father, but maybe he needs to talk to his father, because sometimes, maybe he needs some type of closure, from him, or to speak with him directly about it. And that's what's, really bothering him, is because that's the person that he really wants to express those things to, but he can't, reach them, or they don't have that type of relationship to talk to.
Yeah. So he tried to, and it didn't go as planned. But I told him he can't give up there. Like, he has to go to the next step. Like, we're literally going through the same thing with as far as dad issues. So I feel him 100%. But it's like, you can't stop there. You have to go to the next step. And if the next step is just fixing yourself and doing therapy for yourself, then, that's what you have to do. But, I don't know. Yeah, I'm going to take y'all advice.
just do whatever you
yeah, man, follow your heart, don't follow mine.
Better than any of us. So.
Yeah, exactly. Like, we just giving you some surface level shit. Like, at the end of the day, like, shit, take what I'm saying with a grain of salt. I'm just giving you a different perspective.
He want me to ping y'all and him in the group. Is that okay?
Yeah, you can bring him in here. That's fine. I'm cool with that.
All right, hold on. I'm finna ping him here. He said he should be able to speak for himself.
He with you. He hears us over here talking.
Yeah, he cool. I remember talking to him that one time.
Yeah, no, he cool. He wanted to be able to speak for himself. So I think that he should be coming in here in a second.
Is that Mike?
Mm-hmm.
What up, Mike?
Hello, Mike.
What up? What's good? Yeah, what's good, bro? It's a 9, regular day, same shit. Yeah, he was telling us some stuff about you, man. You wanted to speak for yourself?
Dynamic of the conversation. There's a lot of people in this room.
Don't let them affect you, man. Look, we're having a conversation about how to know if your trauma, how to know if your trauma is affecting your relationship. And she was like, man, I'm going through this shit right now. And she was like, it won't hurt. You know what I'm saying? Maybe it was still saying it was you. So, trying to get your side of that situation. If you don't mind, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, if you don't mind.
Like, how do y'all want me to speak on it? Or like, who is that? Talk to Scammy?
Scammy, yeah, Scammy.
Do you feel like your traumas are affecting your relationship?
Yeah, stop this.
I feel like I've done a better job at facing my trauma head up rather than suppressing it and just dealing with it how I deal with it, or just putting it in another place because it's more comfortable for me to cope that way.
Yeah.
Because the word trauma is I don't know how y'all feel about the word trauma. Isn't that an extreme?
I mean, not necessarily an extreme, but it could be something that's just affecting you, feel me? Like affecting you, bothering you. You know what I'm saying? It don't got to be like you just dropped on your head, or you know what I'm saying? No, you ain't got to be raped or nothing like that, but trauma,
it could be like childhood stuff, or it could just be like your last relationship, like what you went through your last relationship. It all just depends on what you see fits for that word trauma. It don't have to be anything extreme.
Well, I mean, I already heard somebody speaking on the situation with my parent, but yeah, that's definitely a trauma, and it's definitely something that I've been willing to confront head on, even though no matter who I speak to on it, whether it be a relative, a partner, confidant, they all tell me the same thing. They all tell me that either I'm not mentally or emotionally ready to face this trauma and necessarily put it in my pocket like I do everything else, because I've never known the other. I had to literally pull from every resource or every person who I was fond of, and I took all the pieces of them and I made me. But on the inside of that, I've had to teach myself several lessons that life had to teach me, and I I didn't have that guidance. You feel? Like, you already know what we talking about. I didn't have that guidance. Has it affected me in some of my relationships? Of course. You know, I've never been really willing to commit 100% to anything besides money. You know, at this point in my life, like, I've never really put 100% in anything. I will give my all, which is probably like 88 to 90, if you asking me. You know, I could pull, like, if anybody was available that I fuck with for real, if I was able to pull them up in this room and they vouch for me, they would tell you the same thing. But
so do you feel like how do you?
Because she was saying different. That's what. So let me ask you: do you love her?
Yes, I do.
You willing to change that for her? Like, because she obviously is something that's affecting her. Like, and I want to put her on the spotlight, but it's obvious like something that's affecting her. And I feel like if y'all love each other,
and she already put me on the spotlight.
Nah, she was trying to keep you. You know what I'm saying? She was trying to keep you low key, anonymous. Like, I never met you before, brother. I'm Scammy. You know what I'm saying? By the way, she was trying to keep you anonymous, but she was like kind of like, you know what I'm saying? Like, just and maybe guessing. I think that's how the family dynamic came up. But like, yeah, I feel like maybe she feel like maybe you should talk to her. You feel me? Because I feel like she got a different perspective because it kind of sounds like to me like you saying, yeah, I know I got some shit to deal with, but I'm all right. But it's affecting her to a certain degree.
I mean, it affects her because I deal with it. I don't necessarily dissect and ingest things. You know, for me, I've always really been like, I don't know what's the word for it, an empath, like, or maybe not, like, because I'm really an introvert, but I'm an extrovert at heart. So, like, if, like, I got a situation with my partner, you know, this is really, like, head on with the subject. I've been with Keisha for a minute now. You know what I'm saying? And Scammy, you can relate to this. When you have a woman that you're dealing with, you know what I'm saying, and you like her, and you're invested in the relationship, don't you bring her around. You know, of course, you let her be seen in whatever environment, whatever domain, doesn't fucking matter. What do you expect your homies to do in that situation? Because you're bringing them around. Yeah. I mean, you're bringing her around. She's seen, you know, the dialogue between each other is, yeah, this is my girl, this is my shawty, blah, blah, blah. You know, we do this, we do that, like, you feel what I'm saying? Like, what part do your mans play in that relationship? Because he can either have his own, or, you know, it could just be like, all right, Scammy, you the homie. You know what I'm saying? Anytime you see me, you know, if it's not some shit that me and you can politic about, you're gonna see her too. Like, it's a given. It's always there. So, all right, anyway,
are you saying like,
I'll just get to the I'm gonna get to my point. I was trying to set the dynamic for it. But one of my best friends, you know what I'm saying, he feels like 27. He's seen me have flings before. He knows when I'm serious about a woman. Oh, so he feel like she just a fuck type shit.
Can I interject?
Not really, but he doesn't think that I'm serious. Oh. He just think this something that I'm doing to amuse me. And if it was really that, this woman would not be seeing my partners. She would not be seeing people who I really, like, care about type shit. Like, I wouldn't be exposing her to any type of, like, environments that I like to go to. Like, it's literally, hey, this is what I'm showing you. This is what I'm telling you. This is what it is. Don't mistake this for something else. But in the midst of it, he ends up just like, all right, he doesn't necessarily have to be Key's friend. But out of respect for me, he will always respect her. That dynamic has been broken between them two because no matter how tough the situations that me and her may go through, you know, I'm always trying to see the light at the end of the tunnel. Like, I don't know if she let y'all know that, like, I'm not cool with being, like, that nigga. You know what I'm saying? I'm not cool with being, like, the nigga who always causing problems and like, want to have a rift in a relationship. Like, that's not what I'm about. I'm about enjoying myself. I'm about learning new things. I'm not a closed-minded individual. Pretty much open. I'm pretty much open. All you got to do is ask. You know, on the outside. You know, on the inside of things, it's a little bit more rough. It's a little bit rougher than that. But like, I don't know. It's caused a divide in my friendship to where, like, he literally was like, hey, you know, I'm not going to tell you to, like, stop fucking her or nothing like that, but, you know, it makes me uncomfortable. And that made me uncomfortable. I can't fuck with that type of energy. So now you know, I had to put some space in between me and bro. And it's my man. You feel me? Like, if I got married, he would be my best man. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I feel like he too emotionally invested in that. Because at the end of the day, if you happy, my nigga, he should want to see you happy. Whether he feel like of course he should have voiced that to you, but at the end of the day, like, bro, that's not his position, because at the end of the day,
that's not his relationship.
Yeah, you get what I'm saying? So, like, almost kind of like coming off like females. I hate females who do stuff like that. Like, you too invested in somebody else's situation. Like, relax. Like, you feel what I'm saying? Well,
I literally just had this conversation with my mom. With somebody about, like, my mom and, like, my best friend. So they feel like I tell my mom and my best friends everything, but I'm like, I will never give them that space or that time to give an opinion about something that, like, as long as it's not hurting, as long as that person's not hurting me and anything like that, then there should be no space to, there should just be no, they should not feel comfortable coming to me about, like, a bad opinion. Now, if it's something like, oh, you know, I've been seeing this, blah, 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 okay, cool, but, like, you're not about to sit up here and tell me, like, oh, this is whatever, you know what I'm saying? So I was
and I'm not accepting that by any means, because, you know, especially when she's not there to defend herself, I'm like, whoa, like, hold up. Like, let me set you straight. Let me rectify this. Go ahead.
So it's not all his friend's fault for the way that he feels. In the beginning, yes, our relationship was like that's probably what it looked like on the outside, but it was the type of conversations that he was having. Now, I even said to him, like, maybe you should just let me talk to him, because, like, at the end of the day, his issue is with me for whatever reason, and it's because he's not used to seeing his friend being in a serious relationship. You know, he used to his friend, let's just keep it a buck. He used to his friend being, oh, it is what it is. So, you know, and I don't.
Wow.
My bad. I ain't meant to interrupt. That, to me personally, I don't feel like that's your place. I don't feel like you should have to go and speak to his friends to defend yourself, or that's just my opinion. You know, not to a place to have to do that. I feel like when it comes to friends and relationships and stuff, they can voice their opinion, but it's boundaries that need to be set. And if he says that he's serious with you, his friends just need to, you know, understand that and be respectful of that, unless he's coming to his friends, of course, and putting y'all's business out there and making it seem like it's something different. Well, of course, your friends are going to give their opinion if you come to them for advice and things like that. But it doesn't, that really shouldn't be your friends' place to comment on what type of relationship that y'all have. And it definitely shouldn't be your place to have to go and defend yourself to his male friends. But that's just my opinion.
No, you're right. You're definitely right. It makes sense.
I feel like that's the conversation that need to be had, though, because I'm tired of these friends. Like, even like our parents, bro, they be too emotionally, or just like too invested in our relationship. And it's like, it almost comes to the point to where it's like, bro, like, I'm about to stop telling you shit, because I came to you as a shoulder to, like, lean on and to get some constructive criticism or maybe some constructive advice. And another thing about that we got to stop doing is stop giving one side of the story. You know what I'm saying? A lot of times people go explain them. They only give the side of, like, their equation. Like, and that's why I respect you, Mike, for coming in and even speaking your piece, because we would just have one side of the story. That is a bad thing or nothing. But, yeah, we need to stop telling people our business. I feel like if you can't communicate like that with your partner, then I'll just be honest, you don't need to be with them, because nothing's never going to go right. Like, if you can't communicate that with your partner, if y'all can't fix that or be communicate or communicate between each other, then y'all need to be together. And that's just the facts about it. Or learn how to communicate, because it's always going to be that dynamic, bro. You feel me?
I definitely concur. And in those situations, see, like if I never address it, it'll never get solved. So when I eventually do come around to addressing it, like, no, I don't like giving one side of the story, because when I come to my friends with a subject, like, I don't want them to be biased, just because, like, I expect everybody to hold me to the same standard that I hold them. If you're doing some funny shit, I'm be like, bro, that was some funny shit. Like, if you do something lame, I'm be like, bro, that was like straight up. Whether they're going to appreciate it in the short term or the long term. And because Kiesha knows one thing, I'm not gonna get that shit the type to move me to feel a certain way, and then I'm then putting that on her. I'm blaming her for it. Because, I mean, shit. All right, we started at the beginning of the year talking about accountability for everybody. No matter what. And it's like, if me, Michael, if I'm not willing to hold myself accountable, like, what am I doing? What am I trying to do? Like, this is my thing.
I get what you're saying, bro. Let me reset the room. Welcome everybody to the Center Stage Podcast. Scammy Sosa. Do me a favor, follow all the moderators on stage. Everybody on stage, follow each other. Tonight we speaking on how to know if your trauma is affecting your relationship. Be live. If you're on YouTube, shit, hit that like and that subscribe button. Let's keep the conversation going. Anybody else have anything they want to say or add in?
I think when you talked about taking accountability and not saying one-sided situations, that's very important. One thing that I definitely did, because when something keeps on happening in, your life, like, you just have to take a step back and realize that you're the common denominator. And that's what I did. And in my last relationship, I actually sat down and I had us both write the pros and cons of each other. But I also asked,
because we did that. But go ahead.
know, like, how the person who's dated me perceives me. And I was just like, make sure you write, it's like, I want to know my cons. And I also asked my ex too, the same thing. And a common denominator was that I'm spoiled, but whatever. But, like, those things are not something that warrants, like, a person to be, like, angry or, like, very mean or cheat or something like that. So, like, even if you do hold accountability, like, you just have to look at the whole situation, like, whether or not you deserve to still be in that situation or not, or if you just, have to move on. I'm not saying that for your situation. I'm just saying, in general. Like, you just got to do what's best for you.
It's important. It's really, like she said, it's really ironic that you brought that up, because I really wanted to do that exercise so I could get those things out. And I don't even know what good it's done. Keep it 100. I don't know.
I mean, she read it.
And I was the one who brought it to the table.
Maybe that's
it brings more awareness. I'm sorry, Diamond. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying, maybe that's the conversation they need to have within their relationship and see, like, where that goes. And, I probably wouldn't suggest doing it in front of everybody right now on the platform.
Oh, but no. He's still coming style when we get off.
I mean, look, I just appreciate y'all for, telling y'all story, especially on this platform. Just want to let y'all know it's a safe space for anything.
I appreciate that. But it's important that, there wasn't one side of the story told here, and I had the opportunity to pull up. I appreciate the opportunity, Scammy. If nobody else don't got nothing to say to me, I'm probably finna slide.
Anybody got anything they want to say?
Mike, you were very, I think it's Mike. You were being very self-aware, so that's a really good start to what y'all got going on, because that's what matters the most is when you have that awareness and you're not unconscious to what is going on in y'all's relationship. So that's what's up. I really like that.
Thank you. Yeah, she said you was a good dude, man. Go ahead, Supposer.
And this goes for like everyone in the room. Like, this is just another perspective. On the topic of, you said that your friend feels some type of way and, he has a certain input. And I heard a lot of people say that there should be boundaries and maybe we should stop telling people, our business, their friends and family and stuff like that. But from a standpoint of that person that's caring, you never know how that person feels about you. And I know you guys, like, I heard the words emotionally invested, but I feel like once you tell somebody something, you can't really tell them how to react to it. If they feel a certain way about you, they're going to feel hurt. Like, your hurts are going to be their hurts. So you can't really tell somebody how to handle something that you're putting on them. So, I mean, I heard you guys say maybe you shouldn't say anything, but that's not fair to you because you do need somewhere to vent. It just needs to be like that gray space and maybe like you guys said, a boundary where, you like, I just say this, but I feel like you really can't tell people how to feel when it comes to you, if that makes any sense.
No, I understand that. Like, of course I understand that, but at the same time, it's like, I just feel like when you're talking to people who got genuine love for you, it's not a good thing sometimes because naturally a lot of them, they really going to just take your side overall. You know what I'm saying? And that's not fair to your counterpart. You get what I'm saying? So unless you're just there, personally, like for example, Keegan first side of the story, what I was saying, he's a good man. We probably would have been looking at the situation a whole different way. You get what I'm saying?
And you also have to realize, too, that when you move on past the situation, your family and your friends, they don't always move on as fast. They hold things a little bit more personal a lot of times.
They don't move on.
Yeah, and that can cause, like he was saying, that can cause a conflict between you and your woman. That's why I was saying, it's one thing to reach out to them for advice. Of course, when you reach out to advice, they're going to give you advice. But to make comments about, your love life, that's between y'all two. That's y'all's sacred space. And for me personally, I just feel like, that's not anyone else's place to tell you how you feel about your partner and everything or determine y'all's relationship. But yeah, you just got to keep that in mind, though, that everybody isn't always going to be so forgiving over things as, you are in your relationship.
Yeah. Anybody's got any traumas? Shit that they know they do. I know everybody here, y'all all quiet and shit, but I know y'all done did some shit, man. People don't like taking accountability, so I will. Me, I could be real stern and firm. And stern. I don't like changing my opinion. Sometimes I could be real arrow-headed, so I don't really want to hear other people's opinions about me. And I feel like that shit came from, like, you know what I'm saying, the way I was raised and certain shit. So a lot of the times, women don't like dealing with me, you know what I'm saying, on certain levels and shit, you know what I'm saying? And it become a problem, you feel me? So I'm a fucking liar. I be lying. I don't know, I just be lying. I be lying like as fucked up. I don't know why. I be lying. Like, I don't know if it's a man thing. I don't know what it is, but I'm a fucking big liar. Like, I'm a player. I've been a player, all of that shit. So that's one thing that I can admit about myself. At the end of the day, I lead women on. Sometimes, not all the time. A lot of women that I dealt with, they know what it was, but sometimes I can't lead women on. But yeah, I could be disrespectful too, all of that shit. You know what I'm saying? Somebody said something.
She said something about self-esteem. I didn't hear
Hey, Scammy, hold up. Hey, that shit lit, my boy.
Good shit, bro. Good shit. Good luck, bro.
But
you gotta give me the sauce, nigga.
before y'all continue on, I want to appreciate everybody. I fuck with some of y'all in the room. Y'all like family. Y'all act like big brothers and sisters. So I definitely appreciate y'all. I'm finna slide out too. All right. Good luck to y'all.
Yes, good luck to y'all. And protect your energy, please.
Hey, Mike, what's up, my nigga? Oh, damn. What up, Joe? Mike and Keith.
Hi, Mark.
What's up, Keith?
I'm finna go now. You missed our therapy session, but
I missed it. Yeah, I missed it too. I was goddamn. We didn't got it.
Nah,
yeah, finna.
I'm finna go.
I'm gonna start. All over this motherfucker so calm and relaxed.
It's everything.
Hey, I'm gonna start calm and relaxed today, boy. I was scared when I got up here. This nigga talking all calm and shit. You okay, Scammy? Happy, cause I say one of them conversations. You know what I'm saying? One of them conversations. Okay. You teaching niggas that you got versatility. Yeah, definitely, bro. You can't be one way. You gotta reach the masses. I can talk everybody's language. You know what I'm saying? Hey, see, I told y'all this nigga is diverse. Yeah,
I can't with you. What you just said, though, Scammy, was very commendable. Like admitting, your like what you do that is not really good, because a lot of people can't do that.
I would admit that to y'all. I would never admit that to a woman. I would always play victim.
That's Why? But look, Scammy, now I know. That's some narcissistic character.
You don't fucked up now.
Right.
What I would say, like, so, because, like I said before, like, I try to trust everybody, so I start my relationships off new. Like, in the beginning, I could be that loving, caring person, but as you get to know me, and, like, we know each other, we build and we get to know each other, I feel like I be getting bored with people, and instead of me just cutting it off, I keep this shit going, and I just could have been just cut it off. Now I'm a Pisces. Yes, sir. Yeah, I'm a Pisces.
Yes, you got represented. That's good.
Yeah, but at least I can recognize that shit. You know what I'm saying? And I won't even say it's from past trauma. I just admit the trauma that I put on people since ain't nobody else sharing. Like, I could really damage a woman. Like, you know what I'm saying? Especially if they care for me, I could shit on them. You know what I'm saying? I've done that shit in the past, especially the women. Like, I don't really deal with niggas like that, but I think it's a birthday thing, bro. I think it's our birthday, bro. I'm the same way. I think I think
what is your birthday?
Me and Johnny got the same birthday.
When is it? I think it is
February 23rd.
Yeah, it's a Pisces thing for sure.
Yeah, but I will say
that way.
I will say, me dealing with women, a lot of the times they get themselves caught up in situations that they really like. Cause a lot of, I let women know, like, look, you're not my girl, or I never we never had that conversation. Like, women got to stop assuming certain shit. Like, just because we fucking around, that don't mean you my girl. Like, just because I'm doing all of this shit, that don't mean you my girl. We just kicking it. Like, we ain't never had that conversation. I don't owe you that. You feel me? I'm gonna do what the fuck I want to do. Like, I ain't gotta text back. I ain't gotta do none of that shit. You feel me? And I feel like a lot of that shit get misconstrued and lost in translation, and that should have put a bad bone on me. But I can admit to the shit that I've done to women that I've been in relationships with. You feel me? I can do that, and you know what I'm saying? I won't overlook that shit. You know what I'm saying? I can't even say that it's trauma. I just say that could just be how I am, and I'm willing to change that for the right person. You see what I'm saying? I'm definitely gonna be this way forever. I feel like I'm just maturing and I'm just growing every day and shit. You know what I'm saying? But
how you gonna know the right person if you fucking people over?
My nigga, we only 28 years old. Yeah, I'm 27. Oh, you 20? You're 93?
Hey, Scammy, when you date women of different races, do you think you treat them differently?
I've never in my life dated. I've never dated.
Right, so what about other ethnicities? What about like Spanish or?
I've never touched none of that.
So what I was saying, you've never done it, Matt.
I couldn't even speak on that because I've never done it, and I feel like that's
never dated a Jamaican or a Haitian.
No, sir, ever in my life. Only African American women. Not saying they ain't black. Now I would. But I grew up in the area, I wasn't around a lot of them, and a lot of times, cause I'll be honest, like a lot of them, they wasn't allowed to date American boys for real to a certain degree. Like, so I never really experienced
had a sauce, bro. So
I ain't had a sauce. I only dated African American women. Anything I ever done was towards African American women, all of that shit. Like, I never even try to, like, you know what I'm saying, like link with nobody outside of my race, but. Yeah, I done done some fucked up shit to someone. You know what I'm saying?
When you spill your trauma on them women, they stab you. I mean, it's sexy while you getting stabbed, but
Oh God.
Sexy getting stabbed. This nigga
So I know that some of the conversation we be having is about like, you know, how women should act accordingly, like, you know, with men and everything like that. But how do you expect women to play their part, you know, and treat men a certain type of way if you're giving them a certain type of energy, you know, that's not really allowing them to treat you like the man that you feel like you should be treated? How is that gonna, you know, and it's not just for you, but that's for like men in our community in general. Like, how are we gonna build that bridge, you know, and come together if we have men that are mistreating women, and then the women, you know, get hurt by it, and we start mistreating men?
I'll be honest. Most of the men that I know personally that mistreat women, I think that should come from men being in the home and showing them that balance. Because I feel like a lot of us, we getting taught a lot of shit, like, you know what I'm saying, through the wrong examples' eyes, and we started thinking that shit cool. You know what I'm saying? That shit ain't cool at all. So out here degrading women, doing all of this shit. And I ain't just saying women ain't got no accountability, none of that shit. But at the end of the day, I'm just being honest. Like, a lot of us be looking at the wrong examples of what a man is or what a man should be. You know what I'm saying? And that shit starting
Scammy, when you lose your virginity, Scammy, no homo.
I lost my virginity at 16. Like I tell people, I was a boy. Like, I was outside.
Wait, was Shorty your age or was Shorty older than you?
You said what?
Was Shorty your age or was she older than you?
Yeah, it was the same age. It was the same. I see that the girl I lost my virginity to, she a dyke now.
Damn, you turned her out like that? Damn.
Keep that to yourself.
Keep that to yourself. How you do that shit to her, bro?
Nah, it wasn't even that. Bro. It wasn't even that. We was just because she was kind of like tomboys, but she was like a girl. So I don't know. It was just different, but
I mean, she had a vagina, so I'm not mad at you.
Keep that to yourself.
While we're
on the topic of black boys and, you know, like the lack of examples and why you feel like you act the way you act. If anybody has the time, there's a documentary on YouTube called Countering the Conspiracy to Destroy Black Boys. And it talks about exactly that. It really talks about where young black boys are getting their examples of from a man. And it starts with the lack of it in the home. Then it talks about school. Then it talks about, you know, the streets and stuff like that. But it's a really good documentary.
That's hard to believe when black men have the highest rate of participation per capita in the United States of America. And that's something that you can actually do.
Participation in what?
In their children's lives. In their children's lives per capita. You gotta remember.
Maybe now.
Are you talking about countering, or does it say the conspiracy theory to destroy black boys? Are those two different things?
It's one of them is the book. So the conspiracy to destroy black boys.
Yeah, Mac, I don't know where you've been at, but I think I feel like I know what you. Well, I thought I knew what you were talking about because I watched something that talks about the same thing.
Yeah, sorry, it's countering. It's countering.
Maya, did you watch that movie?
I did.
It's not a conspiracy theory, though.
I just wanted to make sure you watched it.
That's what the name of the thing is, or what you call it. But I feel like I don't know what you were saying, but like I feel like that's fact. So like, isn't talking about how like mainly the way you describe black boys becoming black men is to keep them
right.
Was to keep them.
And one of the things, basically, and one of the main ones, like you said, you mentioned being raised by your mother, and I don't know if this was a situation, but a lot of black men, do this. Man of the house. You're the protector. You're the provider. It doesn't allow them to be a child. It doesn't allow them to be a boy. It doesn't allow them to have the black boy before he even becomes a man. And then he doesn't have a male, like some, you know, to look up to. You know, in school, a lot of teachers in school are women. You barely see male teachers until you probably get gym. Gym is probably the
I said that, and women was like, girl. I said that, and they was like, huh?
Usually coaches.
Yeah.
Right, coaches. And then you go outside, you got the gangbangers and the gangsters outside, and then they have that sense of family, sense of feeling, then that's what they can relate to the most. And yes, a lot of men know right from wrong, but again, it stems from, it's systematic, basically. It's at home, it's at school, it's at work, it's in the streets, it's everywhere. It's just black men are designed to fail, unfortunately.
So would you be opposed, right? And this is just a question to, I guess, more to parents than anybody, putting your daughter on birth control as soon as the doctor says that her body is ready for it, to kind of prevent that from happening.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
I don't believe in
absolutely. Who doesn't believe in birth control?
Absolutely not.
I don't want black woman putting that in her body. Don't put that in your body.
So just explain to me, because there are actually 5 major types of birth control. Explain to me your issue with them. Like I genuinely want to understand it, because a part of my question is that we kind of it would be easier to break the cycle if more of us believed in safe sex. I'm just going.
But that's not
You talking about like the birth control, not like
I'm saying, but okay, so just walk with me for 10 seconds. I'm saying that we know that cognitively, most of our women don't mature until ages between 22 and 25, and our males between ages 25 and 31. Okay. And so I'm just saying anything before, so to speak. And so I'm just saying to help your child make better choices and not get caught up in a situation scientifically.
That's from a health perspective.
I'm asking you from a health perspective. Yeah.
From a health perspective, to break it down for you, I don't believe in putting synthetic things in your body. I'm vegan, so I'm probably the wrong person to be having this conversation with.
I am too.
Plant-based.
Well,
So what if they had a plant-based birth control? Would you take that?
No.
It is, bro. It's called condoms.
Can I? So
yes, break it down.
Your body, so your body has this innate ability, right? And your body will always do the right thing at the right time. There should be no synthetic, like Rapunzel said,
no intervening.
Intervening anything that your body has the innate power to do. So putting birth control in your body just to stop your periods or whatever the case may be, that's not going to promote safe sex. All you really need to do for a female is to really have that conversation and make sure that it's a safe conversation to have. Like she feels safe with you to have about why you should be wearing condoms, or why, what I'm saying, like the safe sex talk, rather than just put them on birth control because you feel like it's a trauma in itself to you. Like it's a mind thing to the parent to put them on birth control at a young age when their body is ready, which their body will never be ready for birth control because it's synthetic or it's.
But what about the women who are
and also
for other medical reasons?
Mac, a lot of women, that's a reason why a lot of them end up developing like cysts and fibroids and stuff. Right. Yep. And another thing that I think we don't do enough with our girls, from what I've seen, is that we don't explain to them how their periods actually work, which is why you end up with a lot of unplanned pregnancies, in my opinion. If you would take the time to actually, like me personally, I haven't been on birth control in a long time now. And all you really have to do is just understand how your cycle works. In those times that you're ovulating, yes, there's still possibilities that you can get pregnant. But like she said, using condoms and really avoiding those periods where you're ovulating and stuff, that does, it
lowers your risk. I understand what you're saying.
Yes.
It lowers your risk.
I feel like we're talking about this as like grown women.
Hold the kids to that standard.
That's true. What
the safest form of birth control is abstinence.
That's true, but most little girls not having sex.
And we understand like how that works, but for a child, for like a little girl, I don't think that she's thinking about any of these things. Like I can't I don't really think we're thinking about
birth control.
But most of them aren't having sex at 9 years old, 10 years old either, though.
Right.
Man,
so
there's no reason. It's really no reason to put them on birth control at that time.
Saying they want, whenever they're expressing interest, I plan on having an open conversation and creating a type of environment for my children where they can come and talk to me about this type of stuff. So if that was something that she wanted to do, I would obviously give her, as much information as I could, as well as have a conversation with our GYN and, allow for her to give her the medical side of all the different, options that she has. But I'm not going to completely rule out birth control if that's what my daughter wants, if that's her choice. Because ultimately, I would want her to make a choice for her body, because her body's going to have to carry the baby and she's going to have to take care of the baby. So
whenever they first develop a cycle, which most girls usually start around, between the ages of they say from 9.
No. I said specifically that when the doctor said that her body was able. Okay, so let me just backtrack for 2 seconds. So the only reason why I brought that up is because when we start talking about statistics and numbers and stuff, I think that it's important that we always look up what the per capita is, right? Because our numbers and statistics are always going to look very different than everyone else's because we make up such a small percentage of the population of the United States. Out of 330 million, we're literally 13%. So our numbers are always going to be skewed. So it's really, really important that we understand it. For every 1,000 fathers that aren't there, it would only take 13 of our dads not being there for the numbers to look the same. But that doesn't mean that the numbers are actually the same. So per capita is really, really important. But I only brought that up is because if we know for sure that our children are over-sexualized and that they're most likely to have sex between the ages of 13 and 18 when their brain is not fully developed, where they don't truly understand the consequences of their decisions, can we set some safeguards? And so one safeguard is, having a conversation with your son, telling him to keep his dick in his pants. I'm with that 100%. Telling him to wear a condom. I'm with that 100%. But I know that those two might fail. So for my daughter, I would tell her, don't walk out here and be pulling your skirt up. I want to have that conversation as well. But as a fail-safe, I was asking the ladies, how do you feel about, if the doctor says, okay, her body is ready, or her body is able or acceptable to this, to the drugs. So that's what they are, the drugs. Would you be willing to do that? And some of the ladies said no because they're synthetic. But I get that. I'm not against that.
Can I interject real quick? There's a different perspective, and I'm speaking mine from experience. Now, you're saying a birth control as a safeguard. For me, I got pregnant twice on birth control. So, really, is it really a safeguard at this point?
Okay, so where did you get your birth control from? Because we know that sometimes free birth controls have a lower rate on purpose.
I know someone that got pregnant on IUD.
My OBGYN doctor, not from Planned Parenthood or anything. A certified doctor. I mean, I got pregnant with both my kids, and my youngest actually.
They would have had to
I mean, there's a 1% chance. There's a 1% chance you sign a waiver when you take your birth control that there's a 1% chance that you could get pregnant. Now, I didn't think I was on 2 forms, but I was on 2. I was on the shot and on the NuvaRing when I got pregnant with my youngest. So, again, for me that was my situation that happened, and who's to say that couldn't be a situation that would happen to that kid? And also, there's also side effects of it. Like the Depo shot takes your calcium. Other forms of birth control have certain side effects. So it's like, for me, I don't think that it's fair to possibly expose my kid to some kind of side effects or unwanted pregnancies just because I'm trying to quote unquote safeguard. So I don't know. It's kind of.
No, I get what you're saying, Comey, and I respect where you're coming from. Again, I'm always, you guys know me. I'm always going to come from the perspective that our generation is lost, and we need to focus on the next generation behind us, which would be our children. For those who are in the 30 to 40-year-old range.
May I give another perspective?
Yeah. Yes, ma'am. I'm listening.
I'm gonna go after you.
Okay, so a lot of y'all are not bringing up the fact that there's a lot of cases that if you're on birth control for a very long time, then it makes it very hard for you to have children. It contributes to infertility. So I do not want to make that decision just to try to get my child not to have a baby very young. I don't want her to make that decision and, begin the birth control. And
can I just ask a question? What's
hold on, I'm not finished. Hold up.
No, I just don't want to miss that.
Okay. Once she's ready to have children, I don't want it to be, the case of she can't have children just because we were trying to prevent something, from the beginning. I think effective communication, like with my mom, she got pregnant at 15. So when she told me and my sisters I couldn't do anything, I couldn't live my life and all of that stuff, that made us wait. Mm-hmm. We didn't want to live that life, So it's just, you don't really have to put your kid on the drugs, because that might really, really harm them in the long run. But go ahead.
No, I absolutely get that. I was just asking about the study because the studies that I see actually promote and say the opposite, that, as soon as women come off birth control, that they actually over-ovulate because their body is trying to self-correct.
Well, everyone is different.
I know, but you said there were a lot of cases, so I was just asking, did you have like a case study or something where I could look and read that? Because I'm constantly seeing different.
Yeah, and a lot of
I'm looking it up right now. It's actually showing. Yeah, and so it makes them sterile, but I don't. When you say a lot, I'm just a stickler for numbers. I like numbers. That's all.
Well, that's why Matt.
No. I think it all.
Can I say the one very quick?
Yeah.
All right, listen. Everybody in here, if you're new in here, welcome to the Center Stage Podcast.
Take that sexy voice off.
I'm
Don't be talking sexy.
I want to tell everybody in here, follow all your moderators, follow everybody on stage. If you're in the bottom and you want to come up, wave your hand. You can do me a favor and click on that greenhouse at the top. You can follow us. We always have these type of topics every day. And yeah, they in here talking about birth control. So yeah. So my live people, you can like and subscribe to the channel. Yeah.
Listen, I appreciate what you ladies are explaining to me. I want to make that, because at the end of the day,
too. I got daughters.
It's your bodies, and especially as Black women, it's always important to hear other Black women's experiences so that you can make a more earnest, and that when we spill our traumas, whatever trauma the man has and he gives to the woman, and let's say they have a child, now we're bringing a child into our traumas, and then that trauma spills off into the child, and she's not going to have or he's not going to have his parent, and then that's going to change the way they view the world, and then that's going to spill out to their children. So only thing I'm trying to do is figure out how can we get away from the traumas. And I know we always talk about effective communication, and I get that, and effective communication is key. Trust me, I have a psych degree. I promise I understand the value of it. But at the end of the day, we need more tangible solutions. That's an institute across basically race, religion, creed, economic status that we all can either glean from, or that we all can benefit from over the next 2 years, that'll really help put us on a better path as far as how we won't keep repeating the same thing over and over again. Because if I got a trauma and I give it to my girl and we have the kid, and then she grows up with the trauma because of our trauma, and then she has a kid, like, we haven't broke the cycle. So what tangible solutions can we figure out that'll help us keep us from doing the same things over and over again? That's all I'm trying to figure out.
So, Mac, unfortunately, it sounds simple, but it's not. It is communication, like you've mentioned, because birth control in itself isn't necessarily the solution, especially if you mentioned, if the doctor says her body is ready. For women, the moment we start having cycles, we're eligible to start creating children. Right. So for some people that starts at 9, for some people that starts at 9. Yeah, see, and putting a child on birth control at that age, you have to remember our bodies are still developing. Our cycles in themselves are still developing. You won't have the same cycle 29 or 30 or anything like that. And when you introduce to your body, then you're throwing off your body's net. And then, like everyone else saying, not only could it put you at risk of not having, sometimes it can make your cramps worse. It doesn't always prevent pregnancy, but then it puts you at risk for other diseases. Like they said, now you're more prone to iron deficiency. So now you're looking at anemia. Now you're looking at lupus. And for me, the costs don't outweigh, or the benefits don't outweigh the cost. So unfortunately, the only real tangible solution is continuing to have these open and honest communications and conversations with our children so that they understand the full spectrum of what's going on. It's the same way, like if your child comes to you and they want to start having sex, most parents, their natural solution is, okay, well, we're going to put you on birth control. But then they don't go over all of the positive side effects of birth control. All they see is, okay, this is how I don't get pregnant. But they don't see how it gets STDs. Exactly.
Right.
And that's kind of like where I was going there, but I didn't get to really finish what I was saying. Like, that whenever, and I know we say that, okay, well, kids, they don't understand this at this certain age and stuff, but I kind of think that that's a misconception, because kids are really, smarter than what we make them out to be at times. And when you're explaining how, you have to explain to your daughter how her body actually works naturally, and how to go with, the natural rhythm of your body. And like I said, a lot of my friends, and like me growing up and stuff, I didn't even understand my body, but was, started having sex and everything, but I didn't understand how my period worked. When were even the times that I could get pregnant? I just knew I had a cycle every month. And so I think that that's very important to actually break that down to your children and let them know, like, when you're going to be ovulating. And me, growing up, when I started having sex, I wasn't always as responsible as I should have been, but if it would have been explained to me, I would have understood it, and I would have took more precautions to make sure that I wouldn't be basically having sex around those times where I could potentially get pregnant, making it putting me at a higher risk.
I definitely agree with it. Because that's one thing I'm really grateful that my mom did that with me. Like, my mom had extremely open, honest conversations with me, not about just my body and the way that, my body was supposed to into. Like, she really, really had that conversation. She also really, I guess in a lot of ways, told me that sex at a young age is not worth it, and that it's more so you're going to feel pressure to do it based off of the music that you hear or what other people are doing, but it's really not necessary. Like, my mom really explained to me that sex becomes more enjoyable when you're both older and you're mature, and that really helped me, because I didn't lose my virginity until I was 19, so I thought I was in love, obviously. So no, I wasn't in love with him, but the reason why, and I laughed with my husband all the time, is because when I really took a good look at a lot of the guys that were trying to have sex with me, they had poor hygiene. Their skin was bad. There was just so many other, they didn't have a job. There's just so many other reasons that I think if we foster the type of environment with children where we really talk to them about sex and the purpose of sex, both in terms of procreation as well as, enjoying sex, I think that we can really show them that it's not necessarily something that you have to be doing right now. Because in this generation, it seems like everything is about your sexuality. Everything is about how you look to other people. And I think as parents, especially now, we're tasked with those conversations. I know with my daughter, I'm really going to do my best to explain to her that a lot of these little boys don't deserve your attention. They don't deserve your time. They don't deserve your tears. They don't deserve your energy. This is your time for yourself. You need to be focusing on you, making yourself better. What are your interests? What are your hobbies? What's special about you? Because these little boys don't have anything to offer you. They don't have no money. They don't have no car. They can't do anything for you. So there's absolutely no reason that you need to risk your health or risk having a child for maybe 5 minutes that won't even be enjoyable. So I think as parents, and it may be weird for you, but like I said, because of the conversations that my mom had with me, when I was in those private situations with guys, all of that came back up in my mind. I would just be like, nah, I'm good, because I really was. I really don't actually need you to stick your penis. I actually don't need that. I don't need you to give me your little weak ass pump in order for, that was really how I felt at 16. And since my knowledge about my period, I wasn't even thinking about that. I was just honestly like, a lot of these guys are not worth me having sex with. I want to enjoy sex. So I think you should really try to instill that in young ladies.
more valuable than just don't get pregnant. At least in my opinion.
No, that's real.
I think that's why it's important for fathers to be present in the home. Because I grew up with both parents, and trust me, it wasn't easy peasy life either. However, my daddy was real raw and uncut about sex. He wasn't one of those, I'm not going to say anything. Now, my mother wasn't, but my father was so much into making sure that we did not get stigmatized. So I think that's why sometimes that's why I say it's important to have a father figure. It's important that they're in the home.
Well, you better start talking to these independent ladies.
When I do, they call me pick me and shit. So I don't.
Girl, telling you.
I feel you. I feel like, but at the same time, it's also on the fathers to, no matter the situation, you just need to be there for your kids. You know what I'm saying? Because my baby mama, she one of them independent ladies, but I don't allow that shit because I make sure like I'm in there like at all costs. I don't pay that shit. I got 3 daughters, so you know it's a little different for me.
No, so let me ask you a question, Scammy, because you got 3 daughters. You mind me asking what their ages are?
1, 3, and 7.
So 1, 3, and 7. So you got a 7-year-old. I got a 7-year-old too. Cool. All right, so we on the same page, right? And my children's mother, she a handful to say the least. All right, cool. So let me ask you a question. When your 7-year-old, right? When she's talking to you about boys, right? And not in a romantic sense, obviously, but in a sense like where you can clearly glean from the conversation that she's showing interest in this boy. How are you responding in those moments? Like,
I mean, my daughter, she's not really like that. Like, I think my other 2 daughters might be like that, but my oldest daughter, she's not really like that. She like more so in her mind to like play. Like, she more so like any boy she talk about be like in her family. Like, she's not like, you know what I'm saying? Like, no boys like she really interested in. She want to play with her uncles and you know what I'm saying? Like, my daughter like a kid, like for real, like.
I want to say something, and I don't think that you're doing this right now, but as a whole, as a community, I think we over-sexualize kids way too much. I think a lot of the thoughts that we even think about, like Kia, I believe your name is, said that she wasn't even thinking about shit like that. Like, a lot of kids don't even think about the stuff that I feel like as adults we put on them, and I think that's something that we need to stop. Like,
what it is,
I'm not saying nothing. It's like hearing you even say like, yeah, but hearing you even ask that your 7-year-old is gleaming about a boy, that's natural. She's a girl. He's a boy. That's gonna happen. Like, why are we thinking so far ahead? Like, I don't know.
No, so I'm saying we thinking so far ahead because as a dad, like, right? So if the dad is operating as a dad should be, as it was designed by the universe, then he's always operating in protection mode, right? So his design is actually to always be looking forward for potential threats, and it's not. I wasn't asking the question in the sense to sexualize her. The simple question was to gauge how is he responding when she sees something that she likes, right? And so I'll give you a perfect example. Like my daughter came home last year before they shut down school for COVID, and she was telling me about a boy. And when she would refer to this boy, she would smile. She was smiling like so. And then when she would talk about the other boys, she would talk about the other boys regular. So clearly this boy made her smile and the other boys didn't. And so when I was talking to her about this little boy, only thing I'm trying to glean from her at the time is I just want to get more information on this young boy so I can figure out whether or not he'll be a good influence on my daughter, because at this point it's not about the romance. It's about when children have a friend, right, whether it be a girl or boy, whatever gender it be, that whatever friend they pay the most attention to, they'll start acting like. Just like whatever TV show they keep watching over and over again, they'll start acting like. Just like whatever TikTok dance they keep watching again, they'll start acting like. So the only thing as a father that I'm trying to do is I'm trying to assess the threat, because that's really that's my job. My job is to assess the threat constantly.
Right there. One really for Scammy. Scammy got little kids, which I'm going to say, Scammy got it kind of easy right now. You feel me? Now, I have a 17-year-old, a 16-year-old, and a 15-year-old.
So you got a lot of guys.
I have teenagers, bro. So, and I have one that recently came out to me and she told me she was gay. You feel me? So, like, it's a lot that I kind of deal with, especially with my 17-year-old, because now she's having sex with her boyfriend. I just found that out. So now I had to get her on birth control to make sure old boy using condoms or whatever the case may be. You know what I'm saying? Because one thing that I'm going to tell everybody in this room, man, this go for everybody. If you got kids, don't ever sit back and say what your kids not going to do. Don't say that.
Exactly.
You can teach them, you can guide them, and you can show your daughter structure. But it's up to her to take it. Now, so far as my daughter being gay, man, look, man, I'm proud of my daughter. If y'all look on my Instagram right now, if y'all feel like I'm lying, look on my Instagram right now. I'm in a picture with my daughter and her girlfriend. She got my 100% support in whatever she do. I don't love her no less.
Is that relationship more easy than a daughter that ain't gay? Like, that more easier?
You know what? That relationship is harder for me, bro, because my daughter is a black woman in America and she's gay. She's going to be judged 10 times harder than your average black woman.
That is a fact.
So that's harder for me, and I know she got to put up with a lot because she chose that lifestyle. You know what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, I just have to respect what she do, and me as a father, I have to teach her how to protect and guide herself and show her wishful thinking. Don't put your emotions before your decisions. You know what I'm saying? Don't get out here and get stigmatized. You know what I'm saying? And that goes for my other daughters. You know, I have to show them what a man look like, show them what structure look like. Hey, don't you date a nigga that got more Jordans than underwear, because that nigga ain't responsible. You know what I'm saying? I have to show her different things like that. You know what I'm saying? Because if a little girl don't see what a structure of a man is, she won't have nothing to go off of. But when they grow up and get older, it's their decision. And ladies, don't get offended by what I'm saying. I mean, no disrespect whatsoever. But it is a lady decision whether she wants to be a thought or not, whether you had a good father or not. Because I know preacher daughters that gonna win, bro. You feel me?
Milton, I got a question. That's real.
Yeah.
You don't have to share, but how did you find out that your 17-year-old daughter was having sex?
She told me. She was
so you created a safe space.
She felt that safe with you.
That's beautiful, bro.
She felt that safe with you. That's wonderful. I respect it 100% as a father, man.
You know,
I really do.
Yeah, she called me, hit me up like that. I slipped up. My exact words: "You gave somebody some pussy, didn't you?" She was like, "Yeah, Dad." I said, "Okay. Was he wearing a condom?" And she said, "Yeah, Dad, he was." And I was like, "Make sure that nigga stay in condom." I need you to understand something, young lady. That is your baby. A man is free to walk away at any time. Understand that's your baby and your lifestyle. His don't. And I said, "You see your mother, don't you?" She said, "Yeah, I see, Mom." I said, "Do you see me there?" She said, "Yeah, who do you spend 90% of your time with?" My mama, I said, "Okay, well, there it is. Do you want to be like your mother?" No disrespect to the mom. And she was like, "No, I don't." I said, "Well, before you make those decisions, and if you have sex with a man without a condom, you better I can do, because guess what? I can't stop her from having 24/7. What can I do? She gonna sneak and do it. Just like
exactly. Yeah, it's a fact. It's a
you know
fact.
what I'm saying? Like that's real. I can't stop her from being gay. What I'm gonna do? Beat the gayness out of her? What I'm gonna do? The more I deny it, the more harder they go push for that. Let them live their life. Look, raise your kids. Don't control them. That's all that is. Raise them. Don't control them.
That's so. I wanted to say something too. Someone said that it seems like we're overly sexualizing. I was a teacher for 7 years, and it was 3 years of the 7 I taught special needs children. And an 8th grader was in there, and he didn't know like half of his work, but he had 3 kids in 8th grade, 3 children. These kids nowadays, they are getting into stuff earlier than when we grew up. So it's very important to not be oblivious. But
he was exposed to that.
he was.
I don't know his situation. We can't assume anything. I don't know his situation. All I'm saying is I'm in a negative way. So, don't take offense. But I'm just saying these kids, they are learning stuff quicker than what we learn. And when we learn.
But you have to treat your children like individuals. You can't try to force them to see certain things or not see certain things. You have to look at their behavior, pay attention to what they're doing, look at their phones, try to have conversations with them about what's going on, because if wasting, kind of what Milton was saying, if you're wasting time trying to make your kids something they aren't, you're just gonna push them away, and then they're not gonna want to say anything, and you're gonna be one of those parents who's pushed out, and your child is learning everything about themselves from other people because they don't want to even talk to you. So I think, particularly with girls, I think when fathers treat girls, differently from how they treat their sons concerning their sexuality, I really think a lot of fathers make the mistake of trying to oppress their daughters, or try to, I don't know what's the right word, but just try to be overprotective of their bodies as if they're not a woman, or they're not a woman with her own sexuality and her own desire. I just think that you have to guide them, just like someone just said, because it's going to happen anyway. You don't have control over it at all, so it's just better if you realize that as soon as you can, and you just have as many decisions later when they're not in your presence.
Right. But kids, I look at it like this, man. But I had to have an understanding for myself. I'm a former professional boxer, and I'm putting that into play because of this. 30% of that boxing gym made me a man. And I train and I coach and I mentor kids today, and I also deal with women violence. I even teach them how to fight. I had 3 women that turned pro on my watch. They got out of their situation. And what I'm saying is that life is on how to win the fight. If you don't go out there and follow my instructions, you might get your ass whooped. If you go out you might win the fight. It's the same thing with our parents. How many times we were all hard-headed and didn't do what our parents say? Don't worry, I'll wait. Exactly. So when your kids go out there and be hard-headed and their attitudes are damn near like yours, you really can't get mad at that. All you can is provide guidance. So kids said it correctly again. You have to guide your kids. You can't control them. You got to guide them. And if they don't want to be, you can do for them. Sometimes you got to let life whoop your kid ass other than you whooping them. You got to let life whoop their ass. And we all in here learn from life. You know what I'm saying?
I agree with that, Milton, because that's how my dad was. We had those open conversations. Now, I wasn't always comfortable to talk to my dad about sex just because I just wasn't. I was more comfortable with my mom. But like you said, he used to tell me those same things. He told me about these men. He told me how guys were, about, sleeping around with a lot of men, what that can do to your reputation, all of those things. But at the end of the day, though, he understood, I was going to make my own decisions regardless. And I don't think that that's, a reflection of your parents. Because at the end of the day, your kids are individuals. Like you said, you can teach them everything. You can, guide them, give them the game, all of that stuff. But they're going to do what they want to do regardless. And all you can do is just, teach them how to be responsible while they're doing it.
Exactly. Because, Mac, you know what, Scammy? I'll tell y'all exactly what I do if my daughter got an ain't shit nigga. I'll tell you exactly what I do. The moment she hook up with a man that ain't shit, that man is responsible for her. I'm going to make her life hard. She going to depend on that ain't shit man. Don't call me and ask me for no money. Mm-hmm. Don't call me for none of that. Because you depending on that ain't shit nigga to take care of you. That's what you chose. So that's where you stay. And the moment you get tired, you're more than welcome to come home. But don't you bring that nigga with you.
Right. That's how my daddy was with my first boyfriend.
You know what I'm saying?
He said it ain't no reason why you should be calling asking your daddy for no money if you stand in the house with a man. unless it's some extreme type of stuff. But that's real though, and it'll show them to their worth and with who they dealing with, and
girl ladies, if you got a man and you got to call and ask your daddy for something, and you got a man, it is a problem. That's a problem.
So for me, it goes back to like the fundamentals, right? So we have people in here who are faith based and people who are not. But if we just let's just look at it from a historical value, right? There's a reason why, generally speaking, it has always been beneficial to have both mom and dad in the home, because you have to have that yin and that yang, that balance, that light and that dark, and not the one that one person is evil, but just having the understanding that the compilation of parents and what they both bring is what produces a well-rounded individual and creates most likely less trauma for the child. And not to say that there are certain instances where mom or dad or is abusive in any way, shape, or form, but they're less likely. And that's the point, is that if you have an environment where you can cultivate that child, and they're less likely to have those traumas, because growing up in a single parent household, whether it be mom or dad, or two separate households where you still see both your parents but they're not together, that's still a form of trauma. So if we can figure out a way to narrow that down, where that percentage is going down and down and down, so hopefully one day we get it down to zero, then we make it easier and easier for the next generation, where your daughter and my daughter and Scammy daughters, it's much easier for them to find a well-rounded man who has emotional intelligence, who understands his purpose, who understands and knows who he is, who understands his flaws and his own traumas, and is willing to nurture her so that she can blossom. Because what it is, more than anything, is that more often than not, our traumas prevent us from understanding who we are, right? It's because we're either constantly trying to suppress the trauma, or the trauma is constantly in the forefront and we can't get past it. And so if you're a female, it'll definitely harm your judgment. And if you're a male, it'll absolutely harm your judgment. And so we just date people with traumas that complement our own traumas. And that's really what the problem is. So I like what Milton is saying. Like, listen, I'm going to have this open conversation with you because, again, a daddy is the little girl's first love. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put her in a position where she knows what the right is. She knows what a real man look like. And if she want to settle for less than that, then I'm not going to support her. You know what I mean? So I absolutely concur with that. But then on the opposite side is, like, I have a son. I have to not only show him how to be a real man, but I have to kind of guide him away from as many mistakes as I can. Now, he had to live and grow and do on his own, but all the stupid stuff that I did, you know what I mean? At the very least, I got to make him well aware of it. Like, I'll give you a perfect example. My father gangbanged for years. Rap sheet was crazy. Went to prison and got saved. And, when he came home, he was very, very different. And, when he had me and he had my brother, he was so afraid of us going into the same lifestyle that he kind of overdid it. On one hand, he would glamorize it, and we would see his old friends, he would talk him up about the robberies, the murders, all like glamorous. And then on the other side, like, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. And so it created a weird picture. There was never a balance in it. And it caused both me and my brother to take very separate paths. But had we had the opportunity to really have open communication like we've been talking about all night, then I might have stayed away from some of the traumas that I went into head first on purpose, trying to be something and see something and do something on our children or our nieces and our nephews, and kind of let this other generation die out. I think it'll be much easier to save them than it would be to split our attention and try to save our peers and our children at the same time.
Well, man, raising a black son, because I have a son too. Raising a black son in America is totally different, bro. It's not tough. When my dad had me, man, my dad told me these words, bro. He said, son, if I gotta beat you, I'm gonna beat you. But if I could talk to you, I'm gonna talk to you. Most of the time he had to beat me. Most of the time he could talk to me. My dad was a preacher, man. He went to church, did all that, but he had a past too. He didn't overdo it, but he made sure that I didn't do nothing stupid. But in the way he tried to control me, man, I'm from Saginaw, Michigan. The GM was real big back home where I'm from, man. Working in the plant was like one of the biggest opportunities you can get. I didn't want that. I was a little different. I had uncles around me, and, I was taught kind of how to sell drugs. Well, no kind of, I was. I made a lot of money in the streets. And then I ended up joining the military when I got in trouble. I almost did some time. And I joined the Army, behind that. I just thought it would be best for me to leave. And I did them 13 years in the Army, and that's why I really learned structure as a man. And see what a black man needs to learn. 2 things a black man needs to learn, man. A young black man. He needs to learn structure, and he needs to learn how not to let his emotions get. And so, like, when you have a single mother, not saying that black women can't raise a son. I'm not saying that. Ladies don't get offended by what I'm saying, but understand what I'm saying.
I will say that.
Yeah, but like when the son is with just a black woman and he's being raised by his mother, he gets emotional. You know what I'm saying? In other words, no disrespect, but he get bitch tendencies. And I got a lot of boxers in my gym that's just with their single, that's just with their mother. They got bitch tendencies, and I gotta pull it out of them because they emotional. You feel me? So when you got a son when you got a black man that's too emotional, he's headed for destruction. So like with black kids, man, with black sons, you have to raise them different. You have to be hard on them. You have to be tough on them. You have to yell at them. You gotta snatch them up. You gotta be on their ass, because if they don't, the police go do it. And we ain't gonna like it when the police do it. So you gotta handle your son before the state do. And that's just how I feel about, with young black men, because if we don't control it, the state will. They will become property of the state, because, they'll lock us up quick. I mean, look at what happened at the state capitol. We can't even have a peaceful protest without tear gas being thrown on us. But the white people got to do what they wanted to do. You know what I'm saying? So we know America ain't fair to young black men. So we got to learn how to keep our young black men out of the way. We have to protect our daughters and keep our young black sons out of the way to teach them how to protect black women. It's not enough of that going on in our community, though. But someday I believe we'll fix it.
I want to piggyback off of what Milton. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just saying preach, because he's speaking truth.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. That's what I was gonna say. I think a part of what Milton was saying towards the end, I think is really necessary, because I think that there can definitely be a way that we can teach both men and women to have control of their emotions in such a way where it doesn't cause them to wreck their lives, as well as cause them to no longer be able to emotionally connect with the people that they're meant to, because no one has taught them. And I think particularly when it comes to heterosexual relationships between black men and women, I definitely think there's some work that needs to be done in terms of us, learning how to understand each other and to be much more, I guess, mindful of what the other needs in terms of long-term romantic relationships, because I've had quite a few guy friends over my lifetime, and a lot of things that they would express to me is that they never saw how to love a woman correctly. Like, they didn't know how. Like, they really didn't genuinely know how. While there were some things they were doing, based off of their own traumas and just, choices that they thought at the time were harmless, as they, utilize that hindsight, they realized that they were making a lot of these choices because they didn't know that what they were doing was wrong, as well as if they didn't know what they didn't know. And so I think what maybe should, hopefully in the future, what could happen is whether or not you stay with the woman that you have kids with, that there could still be some demonstration to your son in particular about how to be loving and caring to someone, such that when he becomes older, he knows how to do it. I think we take that for granted, and I wish that either more married men who have successful marriages, or men that have just have the perspective of making a few mistakes would speak about that louder, instead of like the things concerning like how to get a woman or how to have sex with a woman. Because I guess that's necessary, but I feel like a lot of older men are more concerned with teaching game rather than teaching like ways to really be in successful relationships with women, in particular with black women. I really do think that we both have to focus on that, because shown something different or taught something different, or else it's just going to be the same thing all over again. And I think we have to take accountability for what we're doing and what we're showing our children, and on different levels. But yeah, I just hope that in the future, more young Black men are able to find out how to be in successful, healthy relationships with women, before they break other women's hearts and create baggage and all this other stuff with kids with women they don't really want, because they were taught or shown by another man, whether it was their father or their uncle or a mentor, what to look for and how to behave beforehand, like preemptively.
We're all quiet. Everybody thinking, huh?
Nah, man, that was powerful, man. I'm thinking on that. I'm like, damn, man, that girl knows what she talking about now.
Listen, Scammy, I'm always grateful for these conversations where we can enrich one another. I think it would be nice if we saw this in the mainstream. I think that would be real nice.
I'm live. Kind of like recorded it, bro.
Oh, that's beautiful.
It's live.
That's beautiful.
Send the link on YouTube, bro.
Absolutely, send it to me. I think that would be like, if we could just get it out to the mainstream, and it's not for the embetterment ourselves, but just so that others of us, other Black people who are struggling with the same thing, who maybe not able, because we know Android users aren't even able to get on this platform yet, and there are a lot of the other platforms are censoring people, and some of the topics that we hit on would definitely be automatically taken down from Instagram or Facebook or Twitter. So to be in a room where people can share ideas, and clearly we don't all agree, and that's fine. But you can tell from people's hearts and people's conversations, like, they genuinely want Black people to do better for Black people, and I'm for that 100%. Like, as long as we go into the same place, if you want to take a different path, I'm not here to disrespect you at all. You know what I'm saying? It's like, guys, like, if we could just get this, like, we don't care about shaking butts all the time. We don't care about guns all the time. Like, we focusing on other stuff that's cool.
Yeah, most definitely. I'm about to kind of get off subject a little bit, but Instagram page on one of the moderators, Miss Chastity. Is that how you say that? Chastity?
Yes, that is how you pronounce my name.
Yeah, Chastity. Yeah, man, I just looked at your Instagram page, man, and you got a lot going on, man. It looks like you can cook your ass off. I'm trying to figure out where you located, because I like food now.
Thank you. I'm in St. Louis, Missouri.
Are you in St. Louis, man? You far away from me. See, I'm about to move to Dallas, Texas, man. I got people out there in St. Louis, man. I see your number in the bio and all that, man. I'm coming check you out.
All you gotta do is overnight the food.
Send on my way.
Just overnight the food. Put it in a little FedEx box. Overnight it, guaranteed by 10 a.m.
It look like she throw down. It look like she throw down now.
Hey, ladies, quick question to all the ladies. I hear emotional intelligence thrown around quite a bit by quite a few ladies, not just in this conversation, but in multiple conversations. Can ladies tell me what their understanding or perspective or requirements are for emotional intelligence when it comes to a man in a relationship?
Emotional intelligence has been thrown around a lot. There's even a book. Yeah, there's even a book on it, and people read it, they still do what they want to do. I think it's situational for each person. I'm sorry if my phone sounds weird for some reason. I think it's situational with each individual, but the main thing that we need when we have communication is comprehension. Because with goodness gracious, Scammy. Okay, so All right, so emotional intelligence, the way that it was presented to me, is not having your emotions in situations where it warrants you to really think logically. So that's the way that it was presented to me. However, with certain situations, you can't help but to think and react emotionally because it's triggers, and that contributes to the traumas that we have. So it really, like, with that, it's situational, like I said, and it really depends on how it's perceived by each individual. So it's going to be different in every situation. I don't know if anyone else wants to speak on that.
Any other ladies could drop some jewels or gems. I just want to just figure out where the ladies are coming from. You know what I mean? I think what you're saying is right, but then when I hear other women use it in context, it sounds like something totally different. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think a lot of people understand what it really is. They just put their own definition on it, but to each their own. What did I miss?
Oh, so my question to the ladies that I posed was, could you define for me what you believe emotional intelligence is, and what are the requirements as far as emotional intelligence goes for any man that you're seriously dating?
So when you say that, do you mean like how to work through your, like how to channel your emotions? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm the question actually ends up all on you, right? Because the first portion of the question is basically you defining what you believe or what emotional intelligence is to you. And then after you define it to me, then you go into what your requirements are as far as you dating a man, and how much, if any, emotional intelligence is needed to actually be with you. What I'm trying to gauge is maybe from 3 or 4 women is what is a consensus or what is an overlap across the board, because for the last 2 weeks, I've heard emotional intelligence at least 40 times, and every time I hear it, it sounds slightly different. Sometimes when I hear it, it sounds totally different. So I'm just trying to get a consensus on what women believe that emotional intelligence is, because I don't really hear it from men. And it's not that they don't know it. They usually use it basically in reference to a question that was asked. They use it in their answer, but I don't hear men bringing it up. It's something that is definitely female driven, and I think that's a good thing. I don't think it's bad, but I really want to understand what it means to you guys. So maybe all the fellas here will really have a better understanding.
I gotta sit on that for a minute and kind of think about it.
He hit y'all with a bar. That was a bar, Mac.
Huh?
Listen, blessings. That's the whole point of this thing is to have these, if the question take a few minutes to answer, it's fine. But I mean, I know y'all been in groups where women are like, he gotta have emotional intelligence, and I need him to be emotionally intelligent. And if he ain't emotionally intelligent, it's like, I know you guys have heard it, but nobody's really defining it. And if when you Google it, the definition is wonky. I'm gonna be honest with you. If you Google it right now, the definition is wonky. So
well, it's kind of hard for me, I guess, because I personally don't try to say how to like define certain characteristics for all men, because every man is different. So that's why it's kind of hard for me to gauge that. Like I may deal with one man who shows certain characteristics, like you just kind of have to learn how people operate and how they actually show it. So that's kind of hard for me to answer.
But how would that affect? But how? It's like if you want a guy that makes you laugh, you wouldn't entertain a guy that makes you laugh. Like you still have a baseline. So I'm asking you, what's the baseline for emotional intelligence that you're looking for? You know what I mean? Because if that's not what you like or what you want, then you're not going to entertain him at all. Going to vary. You're a grown woman. You know what you want. You know what you don't want. So when it comes to emotional intelligence, I'm asking you, what do you want?
Okay. I think, being able to, communicate how you feel, that's like really big for me. Like, we got to be able to lay our feelings out there on the table, or how certain things, make you feel. Like, if I do something, don't be so quick to get angry about it, but explain to me why it's bothering you. I'm trying to think of what else. That's really, like, honestly, that's really my biggest thing, to be honest, is just communication. Because I feel like a lot of men that I've personally dealt with, they aren't great with that, like actually laying their feelings out there, leaving me in the dark about, what's actually bothering them. So that's really all I can say about it right now.
I just think aware of your emotions. The foundation of it is just understanding yourself and understanding what type of situations cause you to react certain ways, and whether that is something that you should react to. Is it beneficial for you to react in that way? How can you reel it back in and act more rationally about certain situations? So I think it's more so in understanding yourself, maybe what type of triggers you have individually, and how you can work on those to better communicate how you're feeling to others, if that makes sense. I think that's the foundation of it. And then when it comes to relationships, man or woman, just being comfortable in yourself and your emotions, and not being afraid to express them regardless of what the reaction is. Being comfortable just being who you are and whatever that is.
Yeah, how it was explained to me is basically that emotional, and why I really appreciate you, Angel, for saying that, being aware of your own first. How it was explained to me is basically being able to analyze the range of emotions that we feel, right? Like, a lot of people, especially men, not all men, but most men reduce emotions to happy, sad, mad. And they aren't aware of the vast amount of emotions that a person can have. Sometimes you can be somber, or you can be, disappointed, or there's variation. And an emotionally intelligent person is firstly aware of their own emotions, and they can analyze their own emotions and sit with themselves and be like, okay, so this is what I'm actually feeling. Here's the root of the things that I'm feeling. So when I'm going to express to my partner later on my issue with this, or what I like about this, they can do that in such a way because they sat with themselves. And what happens when you sit with yourself and acknowledge your own emotions, your own feelings, like the way you feel about things, instead of invalidating them because you say, "Oh, I'm a man," when you mature enough to get past that, and you realize that that's not real, and that your masculinity should not be diminished based upon the range of emotions that you were designed to feel, you become much more aware, or should I say, much more prepared to analyze them and understand them in others. So you basically have practiced with yourself a lot. So then when other people, particularly the people you're engaging in romantic relationships with, have those same range of emotions, you have a much more sophisticated understanding of what's going on, instead of just looking for sad and angry. Or happy rather. You have a much greater understanding, so that makes communication a lot more easy for both parties, because you're starting off with is much more versed with dealing with their emotions, and really coming up with reasons why they exist or why they would happen. Versus if you're someone who doesn't spend any time with yourself, and you neglect and ignore your own reactions, you kind of just go through life and
don't actually take time to analyze how you feel, then how are you going to do it for somebody else?
Yeah.
You won't.
Yeah, that's true.
I think that maybe the easiest way to think about it is when people say, you know, I'm in tune with my emotions.
Mm-hmm.
That's like the easiest way to try to, I guess, understand it.
It's kind of like I know something that me and the man that I talked to is like defining that line between jealousy and possessiveness, because I know that that's you know, something that a lot of men kind of deal with, and being able to find those, I guess you could say, like, you know, red flags in yourself that could lead to something toxic. Or is it, you know, because I feel like, you know, you have like healthy jealousy. It's kind of, you know, good to have that in a relationship, but then, you know, setting those boundaries or learning, like, you know, when it's time to take things down a notch if it turns into like possessiveness. So that's something that I kind of look at in relationships.
So is it more important to have love or compatibility? Because what you're saying, I think it's absolutely necessary, and I 100% agree with you, ladies. But I don't know if that translates immediately to love. It sounds like for you ladies individually, what it translates to is that by him having these qualities, he's more compatible with you. So is the compatibility more important, or is the love more important? Because he might love you, but he might not have these traits, or he might not have these abilities, or this might not be his natural personality. It might be something that he has to be taught, might have to be learned over a period of years, and that gets into a woman grooming a man or raising a man, and that's not a discussion that, you know, we're jumping into right this moment. I'm specifically asking, like, so when you weigh this out, is it the compatibility, or is it the love that weighs on the scale heavier?
I think it's compatibility, because I feel like you can build. Yeah, I think you can build, you know, love with someone, you know, or you can grow fond of someone. But even, you know, if you love someone, it doesn't mean that you're going to be able to have a successful, you know, relationship with them. That love can turn into toxicness. So I think that, you know, being compatible is definitely more valuable in a relationship than just going off the strength of love.
I also think you have to create safe spaces for people to be comfortable expressing themselves, especially men, because you guys typically don't just openly or express yourself, or you're not so open to vulnerability right away. So I think you can't expect somebody to, you know, to express themselves this way right away all the time. Sometimes it does require a safe space to be created so they can, you know, show you those deeper layers of themselves.
I had got confused with that a little bit. That was my first time ever hearing that before. I kind of had to look and see what it was actually like referring to.
What are you talking about specifically?
Like emotional intelligence. I'm gonna be real. I never heard that term before, like ever.
Listen, it's everywhere. They writing books about it. It's hashtag this, hashtag that. And the only reason why I asked the ladies in the room about it is because if something is not truly defined and it's ambiguous, I think it can be weaponized and it can be dangerous for both men and women, especially when our community is at odds in some sense, and we're trying to like figure out and come back together. If a man doesn't know what it is and a woman is weaponizing it, then it's dangerous. Whereas if a man understands it and a woman understands it just as a baseline, then they can understand each other better, because what she's asking for is hard, but it's not impossible. But if the man doesn't understand that and it's only being brought up when she's upset, then it just becomes a trigger for him. And then no one gets anything and no one gets anywhere. And that's not beneficial to anybody.
That's true, yeah.
That's why it's something that should be discussed in the beginning when you first meet someone. Wouldn't you say?
I would say that's where those safe spaces come about.
Exactly. That's a safe space. Like in the beginning, I agree with you, but a safe space, because you don't know where he's at or what type of trauma he's experienced, and vice versa. You don't know what she's been through. You know what I mean? You don't know what she feels, and she might not have, like, listen, if the way we're defining emotional intelligence right now in this setting, there's a lot of women, and I'm sure you can think of some in your own life, who don't have emotional intelligence based on a terrible situation that they've been through. They've had to bottle up so much, and they've had to push down so much, and they've had to persevere based on so many bad circumstances that their emotional intelligence has been lowered just because they're trying to survive. So I think it cuts both ways. It's on both sides of the fence.
I agree. And I think people expect too much from romantic relationships right away, honestly. Like, I've always looked at romantic relationships the same as I look at friendships. The type of things that you go through with a friend, how long it takes you to really get to know them, the observations you know, that's in play when you're seeing how they maneuver certain situations, how they're receptive to communication, how they act when they're mad, sad, whatever the case may be. I feel like the process of getting to know someone romantically should be looked at the same as a friendship, because the baseline of it is really the same. There's a lot of expectations placed on a romantic situation too soon, I think.
Mm-hmm. I know, like, something for myself, I guess, you know, speaking on emotional intelligence, where I kind of lacked was not really being able to apologize, especially whenever I didn't feel like I was in the wrong, you know, for a situation. And I had to, like, a man actually, it's crazy because a man that I was dealing with actually kind of taught me how to apologize in a effective way, you know, or to make the other person feel like it was sincere. Because I would apologize, but a lot of times it would only be, you know, to just end the conversation, like, oh, I don't want to keep talking about this, I'm sorry, but it wasn't really genuine. And I never understood why I wasn't good at apologizing before. And so that's something that I had to kind of work on myself, because I hate apologizing. I hated apologizing.
Phone call? It had to be a phone call.
Wait, what happened?
I don't know. I think she got a phone call, maybe.
Me?
Yeah, it just went out. It just totally went out. I couldn't hear nothing.
Oh, I was wondering. I was like, dang, it's like super quiet. No, I was just saying, like, I know for me, I just used to not be able to apologize effectively. That was like a really big downfall that I had, was just not being able to give a sincere apology. Even if I didn't feel like I was in the wrong. If I felt like I wasn't in the wrong, you know, I didn't know how to apologize to basically make someone else feel more comfortable, or that I was sincere about it. That's all I was saying.
Please apologize in your relationship, because I don't really get no apologies in my relationship. Relationship apologies.
I've learned to.
Listen, I mean, like, is it a real apology? Because I'll be honest, I hate apologies. I hate to give them. I hate to get them. I hate everything apology.
That's what I'm saying. If I don't like to give apologies. I'll defend my side for a hot ass minute. So and that's probably because I was raised on, you know, like, for a while, like, say an apology, say you're sorry. Like, so I gave a lot of forced apologies growing up when I didn't feel like it was worthy of it. So now it's like I really don't give out apologies unless I have to really feel like I did wrong. I like really, really feel like, okay, I fucked up. I can sit back and actually say I apologize. Not a lot of things will give me like that.
Yeah, I personally only really give apologies if it's like an action that I made and I know I'm going to, you know, like, change it. because that's the only point of giving an apology. Other than just offending someone, but to actually like let them know, like, okay, I'm going to change whatever it is that I have done. But I do think that apologies are pretty important because it just shows that you are aware of the other person's feelings and how they took something. And like I said, doing it with the intent to actually change, not just in that moment to say, hey, I'm sorry for this, but, to say, okay, I'm sorry, I take accountability for it, and I'm going to change, my actions in the future or moving forward.
I wanted to touch base on what you were saying earlier, back when you were saying about either accountability or love. I mean, not compatibility. Yeah, compatibility and love. I was going to say also definitely more for compatibility because I was in a situation like that earlier. Well, it's been several months now, where basically he was head over heels in love with me. I mean, like, head over heels. Everybody knew about it, from all his homeboys, all his family, all his homegirls. Everybody knew about it. And it was a bunch of girls saying, like, oh, I wish I had a nigga who was head over heels for me. Oh, you were in such a good position, Erica. Oh, my God. But let me tell you, that compatibility, like, when you actually got to the nitty-gritty of it, there were so many off levels. And it was probably the foundation of why we broke up. And he couldn't see it. He couldn't see it for a minute. Like, even after we broke up, he still couldn't see it. And he was like, all the time, he was like, oh, I fucking loved you. You're never gonna find another nigga that loves me as much as you. I clicked. And there was many situations that showed it clear as day. And he was just blind to it all. So, yeah. Probably because he just wouldn't listen.
I hate when people make that statement too, that like you'll never find somebody that loves you as much as
my
I
God.
do. Because it's like, okay, the love that you give may not be the type of love somebody needs either.
Exactly.
Well, that you need personally.
It wasn't what I need, because what was really happening that he couldn't see, he was in love with me because I knew all of him. I knew how he looked when he was mad, sad, all the in-betweens. I knew how to handle his emotions. I knew what to do when he came to me with this issue or that issue. I could like, predict what's going to happen and how he's going to handle things. I knew all of him. That's why he fell in love with me, because I knew all of him, but he didn't know all of me. And that's why I couldn't love him back the same way he loved me, because I knew he does not know all of me. And it would show, because he would, like, say, do some shit that he think I would like, and it's like, no, I don't like this. Or you'd be like, oh, I'm finna buy you this, but it's like, I clearly stated I don't like shit like that. Like, you're not listening to me. So he didn't know all of me, but I knew all of him.
Mm-hmm. And people have to stop taking it so personal, whenever things don't work out with you and a person in a relationship, or if y'all don't have that mutual level of love, like you said, it just may be that person, y'all just aren't equally yoked. It doesn't mean that, you're not a good romantic partner, or you're not, worthy of a certain type of love. It's just not for you and that person specifically. But I think a lot of times people hold on to failed relationships and kind of, take it as in they have some type of flaw,
No, but look, what you said is perfect, but that's actually the problem that we were talking about earlier, right? And so that comes into play is if you're only 50% of a person, and then you're looking for the other 50%, and the other person, when they leave, you're back down to 50%. So you're only 50% because of your traumas. So I think someone talked about counseling. Like, our community has a really big issue with going to counseling, and there's nothing wrong with seeing a priest or imam or a minister or a rabbi. There's nothing wrong with that. But there's a really great opportunity to see a licensed professional who studied this for 4 years, taken multiple tests, worked in hospitals, who can really, really help guide you through whatever these traumas are, so that you can be a whole person. Because when you're a whole person and you break up with someone, you react to totally different than if that person was propping you up because you were only 50 or 60% of a person, or sometimes 30% of a person. Like, there's a huge difference in the breakup of that relationship.
Right. But you have to, it comes back to, you have to also want that for yourself too. Because this goes back to my previous relationship, because he had major trauma. Like, I didn't know it at first when we were first getting together, but as I was staying with him and he was opening up to me more and more, he has major trauma, and it all goes back to him and his mother. Like, probably at least 90% of it. They have a horrible relationship. Horrible. And I told him, I told his brother, I kind of hinted onto his brother, like, hey, you need to get back in with your son. You guys need therapy. But let me tell you how much they ignore it. They shove it under the rug. They don't want. You have to want the help, and that's the part where I eventually realized I just had to step back, because I did everything I could when it came to mentioning it to him, but he just didn't want to help himself.
I think it's because, well, from, where I grew up in, the people that I was around, I didn't hear any success stories about people going to therapy or anything like that. Like, we heard about, God working miracles and people changing that way. But therapy being a reliable resource wasn't really pushed. And I think that kind of has something to do with, why we don't really seek it, is because a lot of times people don't have, people around them that have gone and had successful stories, of going through those experiences and being able to work through them. So I think that that's kind of some of the issue as well. And then also too, I don't think that therapy is always a very affordable option for many people, because I was looking for a therapist. Yeah, I was looking for a therapist myself, and I found some places, but they were really expensive. And I have insurance, but they didn't take my insurance, and I was like, dang, I gotta pay $200 each session, or $250, however much it was. And I'm like, wow, I really want to go, but that's kind of steep though, because they want you to go for a consultation, then come back in 2 weeks, and I'm like, okay, this is kind of beyond me. So I think that has a lot to do with it, is it being affordable to people in our community.
Can we wrap this up? Lil, I want to thank y'all for popping up, man. Do me a favor, click on that green house at the top of the screen. Make sure y'all follow the podcast so y'all can stay in tune. We always have these conversations usually every day. Follow all your moderators. I am Scammy Sosa. This has been another episode of the Center Stage Podcast. Boom.